Guys, in honor of Bungie Day this week, Bungie is allowing this week's reset to bring about double everything for the entire week. We're talking double Vanguard rep, double Crucible rep, double Gambit rep. We have even increased exotic fish chance, but the real reason why we are here today is for the double Nightfall drops. We live for these double loot weeks, guys, because if you're like me, at this point in the season, I'm pretty much clean out of everything. And this week's Grandmaster Nightfall is the Devil's Lair, one of the easier GMs to farm, and this will be in rotation with double loot. Today, guys, we're going to be dropping this video on how to farm this Nightfall. This is an excellent source for things like Ascendant Shards, amongst a number of items, and if you get Platinum rewards, you can finally get that coveted Adept Buzzard. So let me just say, it's one of the best sidearms in the game. But if you're like me, you didn't get one last season, this week is your week, as you'll be getting 2 per Platinum run. You'll also be getting double Adept Ciphers, allowing us to roll for more Adept weapons more often, netting us anywhere between 2 and 6 Ciphers per run. Again, just spending 10 of these can give you an extra Adept. So I know RNG is punishing, but that's why double loot weeks are so nice, is that the loot just rains to the point where RNG has to reward us. Well, theoretically. Now first, let's touch on the modifiers. Starting with champions, Devil's Lair will host a mix of Overload and Barrier champions. Now we have things like anti-barrier auto rifles and both Overload Scout rifles as well as Trace rifles this season. I've actually done a few runs with Divinity myself. If you are rocking things like Divinity, one of the best combinations to provide your team constant support is pairing both Divinity and Cenotaph together. Now if you want to rely on your subclasses, things like Jolt, Suppression, or even Slow for overloads, as well as Unraveling rounds, and then Volatile rounds, Radiant, and even Suspending for barriers. This gives you a ton of options to take care of these champions. There will also be shields of all energy types, although again, no match game here. The weekly threat is Arc, meaning you'll be taking 25% extra damage from any incoming Arc source, which is unfortunate here because everything in Devil's Lair does a fair amount of Arc damage. Now for our surges, we have both Arc and Strand surges, meaning any Arc or Strand damage that you deal will be increased by 25%. And for our overcharged weapon, we have linear fusions. Now I know this is pretty much common knowledge at this point, but I'm going to repeat it here. Overcharged weapons and surges do not stack, meaning if I have a Arc linear fusion rifle, I'm not getting 2 buffs in one. Again, it's just a single buff, that being that 25%. Now I want to jump into our recommended loadouts. There are plenty of options here to take care of champions. Last week, we were rocking our Quicksilver Storm build with Ambient Leap. This is still one of the best in the game. It's actually insane how good Suspend is. Keep in mind, Bungie's already stated they're going to be nerfing it. Now, someone mentioned in our video for that Nightfall last week, why use Quicksilver Storm instead of Navigator? Navigator is clearly better. Well, keep in mind, Navigator is very, very good, especially if you're using things like Cenotaph. I like Cenotaph. You're providing heavy ammo for your teammates, but Quicksilver Storm, let me just be real, is better. Due from the nanotech tracer rockets to the artifact mods that increases that damage to the grenade launcher, Quicksilver right here puts out. So I'm not saying you can use Navigator, but to say that Quicksilver is worse than Navigator, for the love of God, just try Quicksilver one more time and you'll be surprised. Now, if you'd rather keep that exotic slot open for something else, there are plenty of other legendary options. Rufus Fury, which is the Root of Nightmares raid auto rifle, a very good one. You also have Come to Pass. I don't know, no one really gets crazy about Come to Pass, but it does do arc damage. I like it a lot. Ambit for solar. Positive Outlook is back in rotation with Void, and it can roll with things like adaptive munitions. Again, not a necessity here, but there are other legendary options. Now, one of the best options for just taking on barrier champions is still Wishender and Arbalest. Now, I think Wishender has actually surpassed Arbalest for myself, but keep in mind we have linear fusion rifles that are overcharged this week, which means Arbalest will be a part of that. Now, even though Strand is primarily the counter to unstoppable champions, it's still very good to barrier champions. It suspends them, keeps them from actually casting their barrier, so our Ambient Leap build is still very, very good here. Now for Overload champions, we have a lot of options, and there are a lot of Overload champions in this strike, so you may want to even prioritize dealing with Overload champions over barriers. Now you have Overload Scout Rifle and Overload Trace Rifles, which is why I said a Cenotaph build with Divinity is so good. Again, links to all these builds down below, but you also have things like Jolt, which can stun Overload champions. Personally, guys, I have fallen in love with this Fallen Sunstar build. It does a tremendous amount of damage. It locks down areas. There are some Nightfalls where it struggles, and that's simply because the ads are so spread out. But in a Nightfall like this one, where all the ads are very much consolidated in this room, one pulse grenade out here with Fallen Sunstar getting kills, feeding you Ionic Traces, you're double dipping in here with Arc Souls, you have so many artifact mods here that benefit you from being amplified. This is a very, very nasty build. And you can utilize this with a lot of different things. I previously ran it with Wrist Runner simply because I was looking for survivability, but you can rock this with a trace rifle. Hell, there was one time we actually went inside of a GM with Cold Heart and did pretty good here. For my auto rifle lovers though, Centrifuge is actually a good option. Again, we named it Zalo 2.0 for a reason. It's not as crazy as Zalo, but if you can consistently become amplified, it puts out some incredible work. Now, a Riptide with Chill Clip also works very well at stunning overloads. Now, in terms of builds, this Grandmaster has a lot more freedom. For my hunters, you've got our Falcon's Leech build, or that Star Eater Scale build for fast super regeneration and incredible damage. Keep in mind though, it's a little hard to do damage against the boss with this super. Cenotaph is a great option, and also you can pair someone using Aeon Gauntlets with someone else using Cenotaph. Essentially, mark the target with a trace rifle, then have your teammate with Aeon Gauntlets with Selective Insight go get the finisher kill. You will provide heavy ammo for them, they will provide heavy ammo for you, and you both will provide heavy ammo for your teammate. Needless to say, guys, it's endless amounts of heavy ammo. Now, I know we haven't talked about Heart of Emos Light in a very long time, but considering you have Arc Surge here, you can still utilize Heart of Emos Light. All is not lost for this exotic. It's just not as powerful as it used to be. But considering we have so many different Arc mods this season on our artifacts, you can still make this work. Now, onto the actual Devil Lair Sky. When you spawn in, you're gonna wanna pull out that Sparrow immediately and blast past all of these ads. Look, someone always ends up dying. My recommendation, if someone dies, load back in. There is always debate here. Should you go left? Should you stay on foot? I still maintain, guys, you get on the Sparrow from Scourge of the Pass and you just blast past everything. You're gonna run into the safety of this area, turn around, deal with the Overload Champion, and then proceed into the refinery. There will be a mix of Hive and Fallen enemies here. Kill these ads, then you'll be dealing with the Barrier Knight, move up, and you're gonna be met with like a Wizard on the side, an Overload Captain in front of you, with a Barrier Champion down further, and there's like an all-out war happening between the Fallen and the Hive. One of my favorite strikes, man. A classic. Deal with all these guys, clear out all the ads, and you'll have these snipers that like to pick you off from the back. Be very careful, because throughout this entire Nightfall, these guys, these Vandals, they don't go away, and they will pick you fast. Now interact with the prompt, and this will begin a 3-wave cycle of ads. Now you can actually see the spawn hallways if you drop down off the catwalk and head left. This is by far the safest way of doing this part, but not necessarily the fastest. Fellas, if you got the balls to do it, literally sit in the middle of this room and fight these ads in hand-to-hand combat. Granted, it's a very likely chance you'll be heading back to orbit, but let me just say, it's a beautiful thing when you can hold your own right here amongst all the ads pouring out at you, because yes, you will find yourself surrounded very quickly. Now nades are really the best here for locking down AoE damage as these enemies are funneling out, especially if you have arc nades that are dealing jolt damage. The first and second waves will be both Fallen enemies, and the third wave will be a combination of Fallen and Hive. Additionally, there will be some Overload champions popping up throughout the waves, and you can hide under this catwalk area, but keep in mind, ads will still push you under here. Now I still maintain Orpheus Rig, Tether on a Hunter is still one of the best ways to lock down a room. If you are pairing this with someone using Phoenix Protocol, you guys are gonna have back-to-back orbs and supers over and over. And I know for my hunters, this may seem kind of boring to you, but dude, you literally lock down everything. That tether lasts forever. On top of that, you're playing mad support for your teammates. Now, upon completing this entire area and all these waves, the next area will unlock. You'll push through, you'll be met with some ads, as well as another champion. Deal with these guys, get a finisher off if you need, top your heavy ammo off, and now you'll be entering the blast. This area is pretty chaotic. You have a lot of enemies. You have a barrier servitor, which likes to immune everything. Vandal snipers. There's a number of ads in front of you and to the left of you. There will be a tank out here, 2 brigs, and an ass load of ads. This is normally the area where people wipe, if they do wipe, and I actually find this area to be harder than the boss room. I will say, take out that barrier champion as soon as you enter this area. Again, this barrier will immune everything. So the sooner you take it out, the better. Deal with all the ads in front of you, and then deal with the ads to the left of you. Now, we like to jump up to the top and wait for the spider tank to drop down, and then we take it out from afar. Yes, you can get picked, even from here from the tank, but if you take out the tank, that's one threat you don't have to worry about as you're dealing with the ads. Now, after taking out that tank, you then can start looking at the brigs. Everyone has different methods. I like to actually work right to left here, taking out the brigs and ads on the right side, and then move to the left, and then move up. That way I have these columns for protection. Brigs are pretty chunky, guys. They soak up a lot of damage, but after you get them to about 1/3 of their health, they'll do a stagger animation, exposing a crit spot. And again, you can still stay on the roof and deal with that brig. However, there are times where the brig like walks like really much underneath, and it's hard to get an angle on them. But there's also gonna be an Overload champion that's bouncing around, deal with these guys, and then move left. And essentially keep doing the exact same thing. Bricks first, champions next. There will be a number of ads that do spawn in the middle. A tether can really lock those guys down. And also a tether there where the tank was will lock down a lot of those ads that are pouring out. But again, take out the brick first and then move to deal with the surrounding champions. Now, entering the boss room, you're going to be met with a few dregs as well as 2 overload champions to start out with. This is a great time to get some finishers off if you're looking to top off your heavy. Now, after dealing with these guys, Sepix will take down his shield and you can start doing damage. We like to stick to the left-hand side because ads do tend to pour out and you don't want to find yourself surrounded. Upon getting his health down to 2/3 of his bar, he'll go immune and actually spawn in these 4 servitors. You have to take them out before you can deal damage to them again. At the same time, you'll have a ton of ads that are pouring in. Keep in mind, guys, overload champions, and this happens a lot, they'll TP right behind you. So like if you're moved up too much, you'll suddenly find yourself going back to orbit because an overload champion got behind you and boned you out of this nightfall. Deal with these guys though, and then about 1/3 of its health, Sepix will do the exact same thing again. You'll be met with a number of ads, including more overload captains. At any point you find yourself being overwhelmed, go inside of this room. And when I say go inside, I mean go inside. Some people like sit by the window. You can still get shot through the window. Follow man, they're actually pretty accurate. Sit in here, chill out if you need to. Deal with the ads that are actually trying to push up to the doorway. You can actually pop your well right beside the door, which can still give you an angle at those 4 servitors and allow all the ads to just funnel themselves towards you. And that's it, guys. Pretty much after that, you kill Sepix, and that's the nightfall. Not the fastest nightfall, but definitely not the longest. And on top of that, you get double loot. Fellas, we'll be running this nightfall all day long over on our Twitch. Feel free to come by. We'll be looking for ways to optimize this thing and try to get our time down as quickly as we can. There are times in other nightfalls where if you skip champions, you can still get platinum. We just have to figure out which ones we're allowed to skip. But for the time being, I would definitely take out everything just to make sure that you do get platinum and you do get those 2 buzzards upon completion. By the way, if you want to check out a review for Buzzard, a link to that will be down below. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.